All Blacks Wallabies, folks, 23-20. A late penalty sees the All Blacks get it done down in Dunedin. We will go over some key events, stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on this one. But boy, were the All Blacks given a wee bit of a fright. Maybe rumours of the Wallabies' absolute demise have been a wee bit exaggerated. But, the cliche about a game of two halves rings unbelievably true with this one. The Wallabies in the first half, just nice flow. Like their handling early on, the possession was quite incredible. And we do have to keep in mind that the All Blacks made a ton of changes. The Wallabies were a lot more stable in their selection, and it really showed, especially in that first half. The Wallabies opted for touch early. Their maul got stopped. They went through some phases. And man, that boy, Marika Corumbeti, he knows how to score a try in the corner. The TMO did have to check the grounding again and again and again and again, but they gave it. And a great conversion from Carter Gordon saw them go 7-0 up early. And if you are going to come to New Zealand and get a rare win, you do need to get, I feel like, that bit of momentum early. And the Wallabies had it in spades. They won a penalty at the scrum on the 5th minute, but then they did miss a penalty, which was a little bit of a letdown. Was that one where they missed touch or they missed the shot? I can't remember at this point, but either way, they missed the chance to kind of keep the momentum going, but it didn't really matter because a few minutes later, Tom Hooper was able to get them a try from very close range. Again, if you're looking for the kind of key standout guys, Mark Nawani-Tawase, he was winning aerial ball early, but his offload gave Callaway a line break. There was a pass from Karevi, and then Tom Hooper flattened Damian McKenzie to give the Wallabies a 14-0 lead. So, man, pretty good stuff from the Wallabies. Like, Eddie would have been chuffed with the way they'd just come out absolutely firing. It was a pretty open game. The first kind of key momentum shifter against the Wallabies was Karevi getting a bit overeager when Will Jordan was taking a kick and Karevi just kind of clattered into him. I feel like that one lets the All Blacks kind of back into the game a wee bit, but Ennor kicks it out on the field not long later. So, yeah, you still feel like that first half momentum was pretty much all Wallabies. The All Blacks did have a chance on 13 minutes to opt for a 3 when D-Mac was hit high by Pone Fa'amusili, and they did get it, so 14-3. But yeah, that was just kind of a settler for the All Blacks, because they'd had just no chances. How much time had the All Blacks had in the Wallabies 22? Virtually nothing. Whitelock was winning turnovers. Retallick got one not long later as well. The All Blacks guys ended up kicking it dead, and Corumbeti managed to knock on a kick through. I'm laughing because he just face planted as he was trying to cover that ball. It was just it was bizarre moment where he was just trying to cover across that ball, grab it, ends up knocking it on, but also getting his face full of Dunedin turf. So it did get a little bit, I guess, scrappy in that regard. But another scrum penalty to Australia, more Australia pressure. Gordon was looking good when he was taking the ball to the line. He did get isolated once, turned over. Nawani-Tawase, like I mentioned, was looking sharp. They did get held up on 21 minutes. Fa'amusili had gone close, so that's kind of, if you're keeping the score of the tries missed by Australia, that's one of them. Really unlucky, but back for the penalty, they opted for 3. So instead of a 7 missed points, it's only kind of a 4 missed points in that regard. So 17-3. Retallick goes off, which is a little bit concerning from an All Blacks point of view. He'd looked a little bit uncomfortable prior to that, but he'd won a turnover right before going off. Hopefully that's more precautionary than anything. Another penalty conceded for the All Blacks not rolling. Interestingly, that was on 28 minutes. The Wallabies opting to kind of go for the jugular, and it was almost a great decision because they go for touch, the maul goes close, and then Tate McDermott snipes right. And how on earth he didn't score when it looked like he was in for all money. It's just unbelievable defense from the All Blacks. I think it was Whitelock that managed to get him enough that he goes like over on his back, so he's over the try line, but it's his back touching the ground, so he can't get the ball down. And then Ardie Savea just clamps down on that ball, will not let him get it to the ground. So unbelievable try-saving defense from the All Blacks realistically, that's another try that the Wallabies should have scored. So they're kind of maybe short 2 tries in that first half. McCright wins a great turnover though. He's been everywhere as well. Some big tackles. He put a huge hit on Will Jordan in that first half as well. There goes my pen. Gordon kicked the 50-22, which was a great bit of defence when the All Blacks wingers had kind of come in field, but they took too long to form the bloody line-out, so got free kicked, which was just, again, one of those let-offs, held up, too slow to form a line-out, tackling Will Jordan in the air, just silly things though. I mean, I can't say silly for the held up, but you know what I mean, missed chances. You can't be missing that many chances. Honestly, they probably should have been ahead by more come halftime. The All Blacks did have one chance before halftime. They didn't opt for a 3. They opted for a line-out, but ended up losing the ball at line-out time. So it's 17-3 at halftime. The Wallabies have had 70% possession, 78% territory, and the All Blacks, despite only having 30% of the ball, have had 9 turnovers conceded to the Wallabies' 6. They've had to make 108 tackles to 34, and they've conceded 7 penalties to 4. So the Wallabies only being 17-3 up is maybe thanks to a few things, a couple of held-ups, like I mentioned, Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick getting some turnovers. But, yeah, man, Wallabies probably should have been up by a bit more. Second half, Fa'amasili gets a bit of a friendly fire one from Frost where he cops a shoulder to the head. Weirdly, he doesn't go off for an HIA immediately. He does go off belatedly, but not before he's been able to play the game for a little while. He comes back on later. But it just seemed like a weird one. He didn't go off earlier. I should have said Poreki went off for an HIA earlier in the game too and failed it. So they were with Fassler on his debut, who wasn't even named in the initial 23, playing the majority of the game for Australia. So despite some kind of big-time setbacks, the Australians still looked all right, 43 minutes, though. Stevenson, he's able to get his try on debut, which is fantastic for him to see. I'm not sure if he's done enough to make the plane, to be honest, but we'll see. Fozzie, I don't think, has him quite in that top echelon, but they opted for the touch, the All Blacks, with the penalty. They mauled it. Leicester Fainga'anuku went close. They got it wide. Stevenson's able to finish it off, so congrats to him. Savea wins a turnover to get some All Blacks momentum back. Tom Hooper wins one at the maul to get the Aussies to kind of keep them in the game. But honestly, the second half is more about the All Blacks, isn't it? And being able to bring on guys Vaa'i, who was great, and Aaron Smith and Richie Mo'unga, you do feel certainly helped things out a wee bit. And the All Blacks scrum actually started winning some penalties as well. The penalty count went way against the Aussies in the second half. So, Savea had some big carries. Leicester with a pick and go looked to have got his, put my hand up to go to France try. But he knocked it on over the line, unfortunately. Good spot from the TMO to get that one. But, the All Blacks had a chance to go for a 3 instead anyway. So they made it 13 points to 17. The Aussies did have a chance to get one back, but it hit the post. That was kind of Carter Gordon's one unfortunate miss. The 2 conversions he got for those 2 tries were crackers from the sideline, but that one did hit the post, sadly for him. And then Finau gets his debut try as well on 64 minutes. So big congratulations to him. Speaking of guys looking to go to France. Long advantage after a scrum, I will say. The All Blacks had scrum advantage. Savea had peeled off and gone for miles, and the All Blacks had some phases. So it was one that if the ref had blown it up and said, your advantage is over, I wouldn't have been complaining. It was a long advantage. But because they go back for the advantage, the All Blacks go touch, they maul, phases, and Finau goes over from close range. All Blacks are in front for the first time of the game after an hour. So 20 points to 17. Australia went for a long-range penalty on 71 to even things up. I didn't think Quaid had those kind of legs, but man, he nailed it. So great kick. And then it's just, you can feel like the All Blacks should still be winning it because all the momentum's been with them in the second half. But it's not going to be easy. They go through 20 phases at one point, and they're not really getting much pay from the Aussie defence. They ended up going for a cross kick, which was the option because the Aussie wingers had come in, but it was just too big from Mo'unga to Stevenson, so they are kind of missing that chance. But on 77 minutes, that man, Quade Cooper, who was the hero a few minutes earlier with that long penalty, he knocks one on cold, which is one that you don't need to be knocking on. It's an advantage for the scrum. They go back for the scrum. The All Blacks they target the scrum penalty. They eventually get it. It came after a bloody long time, and it's a tough kick for Mo'unga to put them in front with a minute to go. But man, ice in his veins. He nails it. 23 points to 20. There's still the restart to go, but the All Blacks gather it. They survive a few more phases and then scramble the ball out under all kinds of pressure. So, yeah, man, far from convincing from the All Blacks, but keeping in mind they changed the majority of the team. So they were bound to look a bit disjointed. At home, they still would have liked to have been better than this, but clearly bringing these guys off the bench, I think, certainly gave them the edge in the second half. The Wallabies will be disappointed not to be able to continue some of that pressure from the first half, and I think more than anything, they will be disappointed that they didn't get more than the 17 points they got when they had the ascendancy in that first half. Run meters finished 553 to 451 to the ABs. The ABs finished with slightly more possession and territory, 53 and 51, so they clearly dominated the second half after being way behind in the first. Turnovers conceded, they were still 16-11, so the All Blacks coughing up a little bit too much pill. Tackles finished 161 to 160, so as I mentioned, like game of two halves. Absolutely game of two halves. Penalties conceded 10 to 12 with the Wallabies copping a couple more, but no yellow cards this week, which was another pleasing one for them. But yeah, individuals, Will Jordan at fullback, 145 metres, 2 clean breaks and 2 defenders beaten. Even if he doesn't get that kind of key moment he usually gets where he scores or has a try assist. Shaun Stevenson, 77 metres, beats a defender, 10 from 11 tackles. Leicester Fainga'anuku, 72 metres, 2 clean breaks, 5 defenders beaten. Misses out on getting the scoreboard when he drops that ball. Misses a couple of tackles, but overall pretty busy. Finau makes 19 from 21, so misses 2, but good work rate from him. Gets himself on the board, so great effort, and wins a few lineouts too. For the Aussies, Callaway, 102 metres, 2 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten, still look sharp. Tom Hooper looked great, man. So 17 from 17 tackles from him. Maul turnover 1, scored a try. So yeah, really, really interesting game. As I said, maybe the Wallabies still got a bit of gas in that tank. They're going to be a threat. And the All Blacks, selection headaches between now and Monday. But I feel like the majority of the squad's probably already decided. Finau maybe has put himself on a plane to France with that performance, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. You guys let us know your thoughts on the game. And yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.